Triathlon is a very unpredictable sport. Like anything can happen in the race, and you have to be on it. You have to be really focused and in that moment. And as soon as you're not, that's when things start to happen that you're not aware of. So I actually started as a Paralympic swimmer, and after Rio I decided I wanted a little bit of a change. I knew I still loved sport, but I wanted to do something different. So I came into the crazy world of endurance sport and triathlon. So going from a 1 minute race to suddenly an hour race was definitely a huge shock to the system. But I knew I'd always loved running. I knew obviously I had the swimming element, and it was just bringing in the cycling element, which definitely was challenging. Trying to learn to ride a bike with one arm, and not just a mountain bike, you know, you're on a TT bike, which is very twitchy. So that was a huge challenge getting into the sport.
I started off as a swimmer in parasport. Actually, I started off as a swimmer just as a kid, keeping active, and Dad wanted me to learn how to swim because obviously you're safe in water then, and ticks off one of the dangers. Then did Beijing as a swimmer, but unfortunately missed out on London, and was just kind of looking maybe for another sport, or maybe just to give up sport in general, just looking for another path. But fortunately it led me to triathlon. I just love the training and the lifestyle. Obviously it's different for different people, but for me, I like the fact that you're training regularly every day. I like the routine of it, and also like going away on training camp. I love being involved in the sport and being around like the team as well.
Originally, I found the fact that the endurance element of triathlon quite hard. I remember in the pool when I used to think 400 metres was really far, and I'd be like, I don't want to do 400 metres, that's too far. Anything below, fine. And, you know, then I went to swimming 750 metres in open water, and then still another race, bike and run after that. Heart and lungs wise, you've done a huge amount of endurance in swimming. You know, I'd be swimming for 20 hours a week, so it wasn't like I wasn't used to that, but it was more the fact of racing for that duration of time. I like to go out fast, and I would go out like an absolute bullet and then die quite quickly because the lactate would just completely flood my system. You know, I'm very much a fast twitch athlete, and having to train yourself to become more of a slow twitch actual endurance athlete was quite challenging, and it definitely took a few years to work out how to pace the event and how to get the best out of the race.
Yeah, I think to master an endurance sport, you do need consistency really. It's like years of keep building on that foundations of aerobic fitness, and I think age in a lot of sports obviously probably isn't your friend, but in triathlon it does kind of help. Even though we only do sprint distance, it's still an hour of racing, so it's still a pretty solid endurance event. And I think even though I thought I'd got pretty good fitness when I first, maybe like within the first few years of moving over, looking back now like 10 years later, notice a difference of 10 years of solid endurance training. I'm such a better athlete now than even I was in my mid-20s.
I've actually changed my training quite a lot in the last few years. So I was doing like 20 to 25 hours a week. I actually struggled with like a knee injury for 2 years. So I reduced my training very much to like 17, 18, 19 hours. I actually started racing way better, doing less. And I think for me, I have got the engine from the years and years. You know, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. It's now about quality, not quantity, which sometimes I find really hard to get my head around because I'm like, it's an endurance sport. I need to be doing more is more. But actually, I then wasn't getting the quality out of the key sessions.
Generally, I'll train about 22 hours a week, like 80k on the run, maybe 85. And then I'll do 4 swims that are about 90 minutes, and they'll probably be between 4.5 and 5k each swim. 2 of them are like hard swims, 2 aerobic. And then the bike can vary a little bit depending on if we're out on the tandem or if I'm doing quite a bit on the turbo, which is obviously a bit easier to do more when you're outside. The turbo is definitely a bit of a mental battle sometimes, but that'll probably be 8 or 9 hours on the bike, with like probably 1 key session on the tandem. So, and then 2 strength and conditioning sessions that are obviously vital because they just make sure you don't get injured or sort of work on any weaknesses you've got physically that could cause issues. There's quite a few sort of biomechanical potential issues you could have, but yeah, I think doing a good strength and conditioning program really helps with that.
I think going into endurance sport as well, it was very much that shift of diet. You know, you have to make sure that you're getting in enough calories, otherwise you cannot get through those training sessions. And I suppose that was quite an educational piece for me, because in swimming it's quite different. You wouldn't really eat during a swim session. You might have like a carb drink, but it's very much on the bike, making sure you're getting in those 60 grams of carbs every hour to make sure you're fueled for the next session. And it's always thinking forward, protecting the next sessions and the sessions the next day. So encouraging yourself to kind of get enough in. It can be quite challenging at times. You're like, even when you're not hungry, you're like, right, I know I need to get this food in to be at my best for that session and the next session. Weirdly, as a swimmer, I actually spent my life feeling pretty exhausted. I was like a zombie. Whereas actually coming into triathlon, I feel like I've got so much more life and I don't feel as tired. I don't need to nap every day. And I think it's because everything's slightly more of a low level and the intensity is never quite as hard. So I actually feel like I have a lot more life in me than I did previously.
You're always going to go through good spells and bad spells in the race. But I think as you get older, you realise that, it might be a bit of a bad spell for the next 4 or 5 minutes, but I'll probably come round.
I'd say the thing with endurance sport is it is a lot more lonely. You do a lot of training on your own. So for example, the bike and the run, generally, you're on your own, in your own mind, and that can be really hard at times. But I think you've always got that goal in the back of your head. You've always got the end goal, and it's kind of breaking it down into smaller chunks of what can you do that day to make you better and to get you towards that bigger goal. Triathlon has also taught me a massive amount of resilience. I think there are times when it's really tough and the environment and the conditions outside are really hard and you don't want to do it, but you've got to push yourself through that. Or the races where things aren't going your way and you've still got another 50 minutes of the race and you've got to push through that pain of things not going your way. But then it's also giving you that resilience to say, no, this is not what I need, that I need to be doing X, Y, and Z because that's not working for me. That is really important, to be able to understand yourself and be really self-aware. And it kind of all ties in with resilience, and because it's hard to say no. And it's hard to kind of know when's the right thing to say no or when you have to just push through and carry on. I am Claire Cashmore.
I am Dave Ellis.
And you have just watched How to Train
Like a Paralympian on Independent
TV.